What's up, everybody? Hello. Coming to you live from my parents' house. We're going take 2 here of the Changavi Show because the last one was interrupted by my dad, unfortunately. I hate it. I hate it when people interrupt me and I'm recording because it's like you got to do these in like one take. Otherwise, someone can interrupt and my dad was asking about some question and then it just turns into this whole snowball effect of you know it's recording and the noise and all that stuff. So it whatever, we're on take 2. I'm a little ticked off, but it'll try to I'll try to combat against that noise. um Again, hope everybody's doing well. If you're new here, welcome. If you're if you're old here, this is kind of old news, same shit, no different. Tried to record a Changavi show last week, but things didn't work out like I expected. Released this special episode instead. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Talked about a little bit about my journey and kind of how I've gone through like the last year. And then, this week is just normal Changavi show. Gonna have some other cool things that I'm trying out. So hope you guys stay tuned for that. So we'll see how this all goes. But in the meantime, we already started kind of talking about it. What are the vibes? How we doing? Listen, I know I say shit every week where it's like I say I'm good, and so I've been told that I shouldn't say that, and I can't say that because that is not good podcast material if I just say I'm doing good because I'm repeating myself over and over again. So I figured I would say something a little different. I'm doing okay. I see I caught myself. No, I've been busy though. It's like I feel like this is the time of year between this is kind of that weird time where it's like you're grinding before the holidays where you get to hang out and chill and have some low-key time with family and friends. So you're kind of in that like weird grind period where it's like wrapping it up for the year, closing it all down, making sure everything's good, and then wrapping it up for the holidays. So it's kind of crazy to think that we're already at the end of 2021. Like this is insane to think about. Um we are in the 11th month of the year, which is like whoa, like we're really almost there. I feel like time just continues to fly by, which is insane. So I'm you know I don't know if I'm grateful for that or sad, but no, it's cool. I don't necessarily like the holidays because I don't like the weather up here. In Northern California, it gets pretty cold during November, December, January, and like the sun, it just, the sun goes down at like 4:30. So it's kind of just like, wow, your day's over in like 4 hours, which is, I mean, I don't wake up at 12, but everything just feels a little shorter. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's okay. And it's just a little colder and sweatpants season is here. So shout out to my sweatpants wearers because that is legit. I mean, in terms of other things, like I feel like I've been working a lot harder on the podcast, been recording a lot more shows, trying new content, and I think it's really been working out for me in terms of like I've gotten a lot of personal satisfaction out of the stuff I'm releasing. I don't necessarily know if it's getting views. I don't think it is. I've checked and I think the views are actually down. So it's like maybe, that's like the weird part about being a creator, right? Is like you could be making content that totally satisfies you and you're like, I really like what I'm releasing and I think this is authentic to me, but audiences could be like, yo, this sucks. And so you kind of have to have a balance between the both. But I think I really do believe that like creating and like if you put your authentic voice out there, people are going to come to you. So it's just about finding that authenticity and finding your niche, and then once you get it all clicking, everything just kind of works out. So I'm lucky I have time. I'm lucky I live in my parents' house that I have time to experiment and do this stuff. So very much thankful. And again, holidays are coming up. Diwali has just passed, so happy belated Diwali to all my South Asians out there who celebrate it. Hope it was safe. Hope it was fun. What else, dude? Oh yeah, the Warriors are 9-1. I know that's completely unrelated, but it's so much fun watching Steph Curry play basketball. He dropped 50 yesterday. He dropped 5-0 on Atlanta, so that was super fun to watch. I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I caught some of it. Overall, though, very good. week, and let's get into what we're going to talk about, because we're not talking about Steph for the sports topic. For those of you that are expecting me to simp, right? I know y'all. I know exactly what y'all think. Y'all think this podcast is just an excuse for me to simp over Steph Curry. No, we're not going to talk about that. Okay, we're going to talk about something completely different. I've noticed, and I want to see if this is something that other guy sports fans in particular have noticed. Have y'all noticed that the professional leagues, I'm talking like the NFL, MLB, and the NBA, most of these leagues are consistent of a lot of male sports fans, right? Like I'm a big time sports fan. I've been following sports for 15 years. I know the ins and outs of my teams in particular. I tend to watch other teams around the league as well. I tend to feel like I have a really good understanding of both the NBA and the NFL in particular. Not the MLB. The MLB is a whole separate land to conquer, and I feel like I'm slowly working my way to get there. But what I've noticed in the three American leagues that I have mostly had exposure to is that there is a very much a lack of female fan participation. I feel like there's just a lack of female fans out there. And I feel like as a result, a lack of female engagement when it comes to things like basketball, baseball, football, and stuff like that. I'm not saying there's not any female fans out there. There's just it feels limited. It feels like it's limited, and it is definitely not the same amount as male fans. I would love for there to be more female fans out there. Female sports fans. We need more. We need freaking more. I would love it. It's a perspective that is necessary. And I feel like you need a diversity of thought, particularly with fans. And I know that there's a few, obviously I've seen, that there are definitely female fans out there. I have friends that are girls and women that are sports fans. And, I know quite a bit, but, obviously I don't think it's at quite the number of male sports fans, in particular. So I kind of wanted to make this an open forum, where I can ask you guys questions in terms of, how can you guys respond? You can DM me, you can, email me. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make this into a TikTok too. So go ahead and respond, stitch it, duet, whatever the kids call it these days. But I wanted to ask like women fans out there, like female fans or like females in general who are not involved within the sporting community. Like anybody can feel free to answer these. Like, do you feel like sports is genuinely an inclusive space for you guys, for female identifying people? Because I feel like to a certain extent, maybe it is, right? I feel like sports in general is one of the most welcoming spaces because it's not about politics. It's not about things that divide. Sports is, in fact, one of these things that can very much unify people. And I tend to be in the crowd that really does believe in the unification of sports and people together rather than dividing them apart. And I really want to like ask females, like female sports fans and females in general, this question is like, how can I, as a man and as a guy sports fan, make this an inclusive space for you guys to be involved in? Because I really do want there to be more female engagement. Like, what can we do to make this a more female centric, not even female centric, but just get more female involvement along with men, right? I know that like obviously society doesn't want this, right? Social constructs, society, they want, girls to play with dolls and guys to wrestle each other and play with footballs and basketballs and whatever, right? And that's obviously like shouldn't be the case. Like girls could play sports if they want to, guys should paint their nails if they want to. That's just, it should happen. Like I don't give a fuck about social constructs anymore, right? Like it's stupid. I think social constructs are very dumb. But like I'm curious, obviously like I feel like this social construct thing is changing, right? Like the girls with dolls, guys with like balls, whatever, that rhymes. I feel like that's changing, right? Like the whole idea of like guys playing sports and girls, being at home and domestic. I feel like girls are having more opportunities to do the reverse and guys are, There are stay-at-home dads out there more than there probably were 60 years ago. But here are my questions. Do you like, to all women, do you want sports to be like explained to you by a guy? Like, do you want it to be like a guy to like really explain like what a particular sport is, whatever you're interested in, whatever questions you have? Or do you want to like do that research and your work on your own, watch games, get more acquainted with the sport, figure it out for yourself? Right? Like, is that something you want to do? Or do you, or sorry, do a lot of women like prefer not to be involved with sports altogether? Is that something like, is is this like not even worth having a conversation? Like, do women want to be involved with sports? I'm genuinely asking. Or like, and obviously you can't stereotype for all women and be like, all women hate sports or like all women love sports, but they just aren't involved. I'm sure there's, some women that are like, I freaking love this. And some women are like, I would prefer not to be involved with this stuff. And I get both areas. I get both sides of it, because it's just like individual to individual. Whatever you're interested in, whatever floats your boat, you go and do. It's just, it's kind of what it is. But dude, like honestly, if you want to talk about like the bright side of like female representation in sports, I think there has been a lot of female rep in sports recently, at least, particularly with the media. And I'm talking like media, like I define media to be very broad, right? Not only just beat writers and people who cover the team, but like, sports personalities, ESPN, TikTokers, everybody. I feel like there's been more of a female perspective in recent years. The last 10 years, I feel like we've seen more women be involved within within sports on ESPN, like on major platforms, giving their takes. So that's really freaking cool. That's super sick. Female perspective again is really needed, and I feel like the NBA and the NFL media are changing in that, because those are the two leagues I follow in particular. If you follow baseball, feel free to add in some of the really great women that are covering the Giants or covering the MLB in general. But I feel like with the NBA and the NFL media, like when I go on Twitter, it can really turn into a sausage fest sometimes. In that, like, I feel like the male perspective is very much like it's analytics and let's get into this and that and that and the other. But like, I really like a lot of female sports journalists in that, and this is like maybe me stereotyping, but but I really like how female sports journalists can like really look at and I've seen this with a lot of them. They really do a good job of looking at the big picture and the full picture. I feel like a lot of male sports journalists really like to, or like male identifying, media members who cover sports are very into like the nitty gritty, like defensive efficiency metrics and plus minus and average points per game, defensive rebounding versus offensive production, like getting into like the real advanced statistics. I feel like, there are women out there that get into the advanced statistics. Shout out Mina Kimes. She does a great job on NFL Live. If you're into that stuff, go check her out. But there are also, but I feel like women's sports journalists in general, for like the pattern that I've seen, do a really fantastic job of like looking at the big picture and being able to like tie not only those analytics and all of that stuff together, but also bring together all of these thoughts and like be like, yo, okay, so this is what we're looking at in the grand scheme of things, rather than getting lost down rabbit holes, which I feel like, I've seen with a lot of these like sausage fest Twitter comment sections. Just my opinion, don't hate me. But again, like so many cool female creators in the media today, like 15 years ago, it was like 3 people. On Sports Center, it was Hannah Storm. It was like Carrie Champion was big back in the day. Michelle Beadle, like these were like the big female voices like 15 years ago. And there's about 3 or 4. Now, like I can go down the list, right? Like all the people I had listed: Mina Kimes, like Malika Andrews, Maria Taylor, Rachel Nichols. I know she's controversial. I know she's very controversial, but Rachel Nichols, Molly Kurm, Jenny Taft, like Cassidy Hubert, Laura Rutledge, so many people. Like I can just go down the list and rattle off a bunch. And I'm pretty sure I forgot Kate Scott, in that conversation. You want to go Bay Area? Kate Scott, Carrot Burke, Jennifer Lee Chan, Tracy Sandler. Like there's so many really great female. Like Kendra Andrews, great beat writers, female personalities when it comes to sports. And it's just ever growing, which is super cool to see. And I'm very, very glad that it is, because it's very important. It's a perspective that is desperately needed, particularly in a very male-dominated field that is the NFL and that is the NBA, and also I presume the MLB as well. So shout out to all the women in media. Y'all are killing it. You guys are doing a great job. Continue to do what you do. But I definitely want men sports fans in particular to keep that question in mind of like, how can we get more women involved, or like in sports conversations in general, as well as like, am I blocking women? Like, am I doing something at a micro level that is blocking that makes women feel uncomfortable within the space of sports? Just keeping those questions in mind. I'm not saying like, you are wrong, you are incorrect, but like, just keep those questions in mind. I feel like it's very, very important to constantly be thinking about your role in society, as well as like your role within the fraternities and activities that you're involved in. And all that. So, just something to keep in mind. I'm not trying to be liberal. I'm not trying to be this. I'm not trying to be that. I'm just saying, keep it in mind. How can we get more women involved? Do women want to be involved? Just questions. But yeah, I want to move on to another sports topic, but this isn't really a sports topic. More so, it's like a sports as well as it like kind of intersectionality or it kind of intersects with pop culture as well, because I mean, this name is just known all throughout pop culture. Colin Kaepernick. And he's been in the media recently because of the fact that he's had a new TV show, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, actually right after this. But I want to talk about my full take on Colin Kaepernick. Okay. Give me a second. My throat's all messed up and I need water. Okay. Colin Kaepernick. All right. Where do we start? No. Listen, I think there are a few people that have a high level of credibility to talk about this issue. I think there are very few people that have a high level of credibility. I think those people include the Bay Area sports journalists that have covered this issue from literally day one. And I think it's the Bay Area sports fans that have watched this issue unfold since day one. And this is what I'll say. I put myself in one of the highest categories of credibility to talk about this issue of Colin Kaepernick, because I have literally been a part of this story since day one. I was watching the exact preseason game where Colin Kaepernick, it was sitting first and then it became kneeling. He was sat on the bench during the national anthem when it first rang. I think it was against the Chargers, was that preseason game. So I've been there since the very beginning. Okay. I've been a Niners fan for a while. And in this, like, I want to make this very clear. Let's talk about Kaepernick, the quarterback, for a second. He was one of the first quarterbacks I ever fell in love with. It was Jeff Garcia, Alex Smith, and him. Okay. I really fell in love with Alex and Colin. Those were the two that, like, just right off the bat were like, it was great. This is great. I love Alex Smith. I love Colin Kaepernick. Just the way that he was just athletic, he could run out of the pocket. The way he played quarterback was just a really fun brand of football to watch. It was explosive. It just jumped right at you. He would make athletic plays. He was very good at what he did for a little bit of time. He had a couple of years where he played at a very high level. And, listen, like, I loved Colin Kaepernick. Like, I'm not saying I, hated him or anything, but I loved Colin Kaepernick. But there were things about his game that I hated, the fact that he was more of a one read guy and would just kind of run, wasn't really affirmative with his decisions, particularly as his tenure wore on with the Niners. And there were certain things like that definitely did make me mad. But this isn't about him in football. This is about the whole Kaepernick issue of 2016, right? The anthem kneeling and all this stuff. So, listen, I want to say this first. I think Bay Area journalists, particularly sports journalists, did better reporting on this issue than pretty much anybody else. I really didn't care for the CNN or the MSNBC reports or Fox or any other news agency that was reporting on this issue, because they weren't in the locker room. They weren't watching this guy operate every day. They weren't watching Colin Kaepernick. They weren't watching this whole situation unfold. So you got to give a shout out to your Bay Area sports journalists and who really did cover this issue better than anybody and how it interplayed with football, because they did a really good job, and mostly because of the fact that they were forced to. Um, you know, it was, and it sucked. As it sucked for fans as well, because this was literally the only thing we would hear about for a year and a half was Kaepernick kneeled. Kaepernick did this. Kaepernick did that. No one wanted to talk about the football. No one wanted to talk about the game. It was all about the anthem. It was all about the kneeling. It was all about the protest. Okay. I get it. I get why they were important. And obviously we see here in 2021 that Colin Kaepernick may have been ahead of the curve. And, it's like, he looks a lot better now for protesting, issues. Obviously, those were big issues then. Not saying that they weren't, but he looks way better. I mean, he started kneeling, and there was a lot more criticism in 2016 than there would be now. But that being said, that's not important. Kaepernick initially started sitting on the bench, as I mentioned earlier. That was like the first thing he really started doing, was he sat on the bench. And I don't think a lot of people know that. He started sitting. That was his thing, was like, I'm Colin Kaepernick, I'm going to sit on the bench. So he started sitting on the bench, and then a lot of people were like, this is disrespectful, this is extremely rude. So Colin Kaepernick actually, and I give him a lot of credit for this, he sat down with veterans because it was a veteran who was like, hey, this is disrespectful. And so he sat down with the veteran. They both aired out their grievances, and they came to the solution that kneeling would be the most respectful way to do it. So to that whole myth of people who are like, Kaepernick is doing this to piss off people and he's against this country and blah, blah, blah. It was actually, and he's disrespecting the armed forces. And it was actually an armed forces, veteran man that helped him really realize, like, or that helped him come to the compromise of kneeling. So people who are saying that he's disrespecting the armed forces can shut the fuck up, because frankly, the whole conversation really did start around a man who is, a 49ers. I believe he was a 49ers fan, a veteran. And they had this conversation, and he shifted his mentality. And so I respect that. I really do respect that. And Colin Kaepernick, his intent is absolutely correct. Police brutality, all of the issues that are going on, all of the issues that were going on at the time and continue to go on today. He is right. Colin Kaepernick is right in what he's protesting. But let's talk about where I kind of differ from him. He said a lot of things with his actions, right? Or with his words and, with his kneeling and all of that. And he continued to say these types of dialogues and press conferences and all of that. And that's good. I'm glad he was standing up for what he believed in. Totally. But here's where I lost him, was because he would say certain things and do certain things that would be like, oh, he's protesting for this. But in reality, he had other actions that were completely just like, that is the antithesis of what you're trying to accomplish with this. So what do I mean by that? Let's get into that. So during the 2016 season, Kaepernick did two particular things that really pissed me off. And I want to make this very clear. The first thing that Colin Kaepernick did was he did not vote in the 2016 election. So there was reports that came out, and he said it vocally. He did not feel the need to vote in the 2016 election. The number one thing, and this is one number one solution that you can do as a person and that we can do as people to combat against issues like this, is to vote. Voting is a very important civic liberty, and Colin Kaepernick did not exercise that. He said he did not vote. He didn't want to vote for Clinton or Trump, and that was that. He didn't want to vote. That was his thing. Listen, he didn't want to vote, whatever. But also, like, bro. Like, that, it's like, what is the one solution that is going to combat against racism and all of these things? You vote for people who are fighting for those policies, who are fighting for your best interests. And he didn't vote. He didn't exercise the civic liberty that literally a lot of African Americans died for in wars to get the right to vote, who died in boycotts, civil rights movement, like all of these things. It was mind-blowing to me. I was like, you're going against what you're saying by not voting. You can look this up on the internet too if you think online. Colin Kaepernick did not vote in the 2016 election. It was a headline that just went completely under the bus. Okay, so that's one thing. Here's another thing that really made me mad. Week 16, the 49ers traveled to Miami to play the Dolphins. They're in the midst of like a 13-game losing, I think it was like a 12-game losing streak at the time. Went to like 14. This team was 2-14. Okay, they were trash. This is an absolute garbaggio of a roster. This team this year was terrible. Kaepernick walks into the Miami Dolphins stadium wearing a Fidel Castro shirt. A Fidel Castro shirt. So let me put that into perspective. That doesn't sound like you're like, what is so bad about that? Fidel Castro was the communist dictator of Cuba for about 30 to 50 years. Something like that. I don't know the exact time. He was a communist dictator for a very long time in Cuba. And Miami is a city that is majority Cuban American. Or not majority Cuban American. They have a large minority of Cubans in Miami. It's a very big Cuban community, and a lot of them are very, 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 very anti-Castro. Hence the reason they fled to America. Kaepernick basically wore this shirt without complete, it felt like he was just ignorant at that point. You were being ignorant. Fidel Castro, committed atrocities to the Cuban people. And you're just wearing this guy's shirt, but you're also preaching another thing for social injustice in America, but you're seemingly promoting social injustice in Cuba. And you're wearing this in Miami where there's a large minority of Cuban Americans, and it's basically telling the city to fuck off, if you think about it, right? Isn't that what he's doing? It didn't make any sense. And he tried to explain it afterwards, but it was really poorly worded and articulated. And I just felt like the whole Fidel Castro situation was also not a great one. It was not great. It was not great. It did not paint Kaepernick in a good light. Okay. Listen, the team, and I talked about it earlier, the team was absolutely awful, so no one had anything better to talk about, and I hated watching everything go down. 4 months straight of hearing about Kaepernick, and then a year and a half, right? Obviously, things happen. He doesn't end up on the 49ers the next year. I want to make this point also. A lot of people like to tell me, Anuj. I got this a lot, especially my freshman year of college. Anuj, you are racist for being a 49ers fan because they didn't keep Kaepernick. Okay, I want to make this very clear why Kyle Shanahan didn't keep Colin Kaepernick. And I don't really defend the 49ers in a lot of regards. They didn't keep Kaepernick because it was a football decision. Kyle Shanahan wanted a pocket quarterback, someone who didn't move. Kaepernick is the exact opposite of what Kyle Shanahan wanted at the time at quarterback. He let Colin Kaepernick go because of the fact that he was also injured a lot. He was banged up, and he was very expensive. That's it. It was a football decision. It was nothing to do with race, nothing to do with ethnicity, nothing to do with all of this stuff. Okay, but hear me out. Kaepernick was 100% blackballed by the NFL. 100%. Okay. The fact is, the man was very accomplished. He was a starting caliber quarterback at the time that he was, quote unquote, let go from the 49ers. He should have gotten signed. And did. Obviously now, when he had the workouts and stuff, there was a lot of weird publicity stunts that went down with the workouts. Don't really want to get into all those details, but I don't think he handled that situation and the situations with the NFL after that really particularly well. And I feel like there were a lot of other reasons why he wasn't fired, why he wasn't hired post 2018 and all this stuff, post 2017 and everything that happened. But whatever, that's a whole separate story and concept. Yeah, the point is that season, what I remember from that season, I know I'm freaking going on long about Colin Kaepernick. What I remember from that season is that it just became all about Kaepernick. And as a football fan, I 100% respected what he was doing. And as a 49ers fan, I was like, I respect you, Colin. You do you, bro. But it really, really became exhausting to watch at a certain point when it was that was the only headline that was being talked about. Anyway, I thought I'd give the perspective from a Bay Area sports fan and as someone who really was there from day one for this issue, and kind of what I thought, because I feel like I do have a lot of credibility when it comes to this. And you can look into all of the things I talked about. It's all on the internet. Yeah. But let's not talk about Kaepernick and like the social issue. I want to talk about this TV show that came out. This is the reason why I'm even talking about this whole thing in the first place. See, because Colin Kaepernick came out with the miniseries on Netflix. It's called Colin in Black and White. Um, and I wanted to give you guys my thoughts real quick. Uh, it was a good show. I want to say that right off the bat. It was not a bad TV show. The show was pretty good. You know, it talks a lot about Colin Kaepernick's childhood. You know, anything from like cultural identity and like fitting into a white neighborhood and, you know, playing sports, being doubted, cut, all of these things, falling in love with with an African American girl and who was dark skinned and, you know, having white parents and like the interplays of all that. Like there's a lot of different cool issues that they talk about in this show, in the series. That being said, there was something that was a little off about this show. It felt a little off. There was something off about it. I have not been able to articulate what that off is. There's one particular scene that really threw me off in this whole thing, whereas when Colin Kaepernick compared the NFL Combine to slavery, that was just a jarring image that made no sense in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I thought that that was like a really, really bad correlation. Does not cause is not causation type situation. I personally was like, okay, this argument is very much a stretch, but you know what? To each their own. And if African Americans feel like that was a legitimate point of contention and that the combine does feel like that, then totally. I thought that Colin Kaepernick would talk a lot more about the draft process and how, you know, African American quarterbacks are more scrutinized when it comes to character and all of these things, whereas white quarterbacks are not. I thought he would, if he talked about that, I would have totally agreed. But the way he talked about the combine was really weird. That was in the first episode, and a lot of people are not a fan of that. There's been a lot of dialogue about that, but it's also been something. The Kaepernick show in general has been something that's gone really under the rug, which I'm kind of shocked about. It's a good show for sure. It does provide a lot of context into Colin Kaepernick's childhood. I'm sure it's pretty relatable for African American kids out there. So you know, another good piece of representation for them. I did like Colin Kaepernick's narration for the most part. I did like how he provided a good context into certain issues. You know, I feel like this is definitely a show that's built for teenagers. And you know, even like people, you know, preteens 9 through 12, like this is definitely something that's very relatable for them. And that's important. And I think Kaepernick narrates the show in a way where he makes it relatable and very understandable and digestible for these individuals, which is cool. Um, but the whole show really talks about like Kaepernick being this amazing pitcher. Like he was getting offers from every college in the country. He's a great pitcher. He could pitch the ball really well and a really nice fastball. Like he could, you know, it talks about how he's great at pitching. But it doesn't really talk about like it talks about why he was a great pitcher and he talks about how he had to work his ass off to become a quarterback and go to the NFL and all this stuff or to go to college and all this stuff. I really liked I really didn't get the fact of like why Kaepernick did not like pitching so much. Like their reasoning was like you just know when you fall in love with something, which is like yeah, that's a fair point, but like I don't know. I felt like I wish there was more explanation into that. It delved a little deeper into it. But it did not, in my opinion. I felt like it didn't. Um, Yeah, no, I really do wish that overall though it talked about his full career. So like it talked about a little bit of his time at the University of Nevada. I would have loved to see some 49ers scenes in there, of course. Not being a fan, but also just like I would love to have heard what his tenure was like because he took us to a Super Bowl. Like his tenure was no joke with the Niners, and it ended obviously on a really bad note, but there was a lot, of other things within the situation that I would have loved to hear about. And, it's unfortunate that, I didn't get to see that full story. But it was cool to see a lot about his childhood. Definitely learned a lot. Definitely really felt that it was a very good show in what it was trying to portray. But there was something a little off about it. And I'm curious if you guys have seen it. please feel free to comment. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you thought was off about it, or if there's nothing off about it at all, and I'm just being weird. So anyway, would love to hear your thoughts. But that's enough Kaepernick. Listen, we talked like half the show has been about Colin Kaepernick. So we have other topics I want to talk about real quick. And there's been one really trending issue that's been, taken over the headlines of the US. National media even too is talking about this. Astroworld. I did a little Instagram live about Astroworld on Sunday, right after I did my little post-game recap of the 49ers. I've been doing that the last couple weeks. I've been having fun with it. It's not, sports journalism isn't really something that I see myself going into. It's not something I really have a career in. I just like ranting after the games. It helps me like therapize myself. But also it helps me like talk through things that I'm really thinking about, because I don't have anybody at home to do that with. Like my dad doesn't understand football at a high enough level to really comprehend that. So I just and my mom does not watch football or any sports. So it's nice to really, be able to talk to a phone of people who sometimes respond in the comments. So shout out to you guys that have been listening. Thank you. But I did talk a little bit about Astroworld, and I have takes about this whole event. So for those of you that don't know what happened at Astroworld, basically what happened was there was a big music festival over the weekend in Houston, headlined by a guy that most of you probably know, Travis Scott. He headlined the show. The show was packed. I think it was about 60 to 70,000 people were there. It became a madhouse when Travis Scott came on stage. Everyone was moshing. It was a big pit of individuals. But, unfortunately, it led to there was a lot of, crowding and lack of medics and lack of planning and communication, and all of these things led to this whole disaster where a lot of people were being trampled over and hurt. And it eventually led to 8 people dead. I've heard the number is upwards of 11 right now, actually dead, over 300 people injured. It was just basically a mess. Like I'm talking with the injuries, you're talking like broken feet, just people lying on the ground, sprained knee sprains, whatever, heat stroke. I don't know what a lot of different varying injuries with this in regards to this whole situation. Astroworld, though, I mean, obviously this is a huge disaster. 300 injured, almost. Hopefully, just the 8, or hopefully not more than the 8 passed away. Prayers, obviously, out to all the families that were affected by this whole situation. But this is crazy. Like this whole situation is insane. I was not there. I do not know any people that were there at Astroworld. But wow. I mean, this is a crazy event. Like, this was crazy. I've been listen, but everyone is trying to figure out who to blame. And a lot of people have directed the blame right at Travis, right? He's the head. He created this festival. He sent out tweets that were inciting individuals to jump over the security gates and come into the festival and really rage and all this stuff. I get it. But let's construct a blame pie for a second, if you will. So bear with me. I think there are 3 main parties at blame here with the Astroworld, with everything that happened at Astroworld. And I'm going to kind of try to do my best to concisely explain these 3. Okay. So there are 3 main parties. The first party that is definitely at response or extremely responsible for this is the event organizers. The event organizers, this does not just include Travis Scott, but there are a lot of people on the ground who ran festival logistics, who ran how people were moving, how the crowd was moving, where the medical tents were stationed, where water places are, where, how the festival ran. There were a lot of planners to this. Travis did not plan this whole thing on his own. There were a lot of festival organizers. I'm curious to see what they have to say. There's a lot of staff behind this. So festival staff / organizers, the people who are in charge of communicating / creating this whole vision definitely deserve a little bit of the blame. The second person who deserves blame is Travis. Travis 100% deserves blame for the fact that he sent out tweets, for the fact that he acted extremely unprofessionally when people were being escorted out in ambulances and stretchers, the whole thing. I've seen the videos, where he's standing on top of the podium and he's going, yeah, with this auto tune. You listen, I get that he's going, yeah, and I can't say that I wouldn't have acted in a similar way because I could totally see him just being nervous and scared out of his mind. And he was just like humming into the microphones. I don't want to give him like too, you know, I don't want to like berate him for that too much, but also like the fact he didn't stop the show. There's just a variety of different things that Travis I feel like could have done to combat against this issue. He brought out Drake, which just, further amplified the crowd. There's a lot of things about Travis that definitely messed, with the festival and the vibe. The last group of people, though, that I want to really blame and I really think are at fault here is the crowd. The crowd is 100% at fault here. And not like in terms of the blame pie, right? Okay, the crowd, when you're in a crowd, and when you go to a show, you have to have some level of consciousness. Okay, I don't give a shit like what show it is, right? I'm not saying go into the show sober. If you want to go to a show sober, all power to you. Do it. But a lot of people like to get a little lit before shows or lit at the show, and that's perfectly okay too. Go enjoy the concert. This is supposed to be an enjoyable experience where everyone is, showing love to their favorite artist and enjoying it and having an amazing time. Do whatever it is makes you comfortable. If you want to get a little lit before the festival, know your limit and know your limit to the point where you can be conscious of the way that you're moving, the way that you're interacting with other people in the crowd, and all of this stuff. You need to be conscious of that. You need to be aware of these things. And I feel like that goes, it's individual people within this crowd. Okay. I'm sure there were a lot of great people in this crowd who knew their limit, who were chilling, like who were just there to have a really good time. There are some people in that crowd, I'm sure, who were a little too freaking lit and didn't know what to do when shit hit the fan and were running around and scrambling and being, all of this stuff. Limits are key. You need to be able to control your litness. Okay. That is a huge thing. Control the litness. That is the number one thing that I think the crowd is responsible for. The second thing that I think the crowd is responsible for is the fact that even when the show like continued to, people were just continuing to edge forward and push forward in the mosh pit and all this stuff. Let's chill. You got to chill. And I get that you were on drugs, maybe on alcohol, maybe just super excited to see Travis, but like, dude, dude, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. All right. It's okay. And also, I feel like should be like a PSA for all short white girls out there. This is like, honestly, for mosh pits, the group of people I'm most scared of is the group of people that like every other race is scared of, right? Like short white girls. Like I'm so scared for short white girls when it comes to mosh pits. When it comes to society, fuck white girls, right? Like they can do whatever they want, but they have all the privilege in the world. When it comes to mosh pits, like, yo, short, petite white women are the ones who literally will pass away. Okay. Like, mosh pits are not built for small people. If you're like below the height of 5'6", just don't go. Don't go into the center. Just stay on the outskirts, chill, enjoy. Do not go to the center. Do not try to push forward if you're small because you will get trampled. You will get clubbed over. You do not want to deal with that, right? That's my point. Is like just know yourself, no personal awareness, litness awareness, right? Maybe this is the one lesson that we can take from Astroworld. Maybe it took these excessive amount of deaths and injuries for us to realize that we need to have awareness. I think that's the key thing, right? The key overall takeaway for everybody in that crowd should be awareness. Awareness. Be aware of who you are, be aware of your limitations, be aware of how much alcohol and drugs you've consumed. Be aware of these things. Okay. And I certainly think that like every one of the 70,000 people should have some sort of self-awareness. It should not be like dude, like the next day, can you imagine like the guy being like, I was so lit at Astroworld Festival, dude. I was jumping on top of the police car. And it's like, dude, were you aware of anything that was going on? Like you may not have killed anyone directly or any of this stuff, but you indirectly have hurt so many people by just jumping on emergency vehicles, by climbing up towers, by going crazy. You need like when you're in a big crowd, you need to control yourself. Awareness, mindfulness. These are the things that maybe we need to remember. All I'm saying. You can disagree with me all you want, but I believe it. That is the Astroworld disaster. That's my take, honestly. But when it comes to the blame pie, let me do the blame pie real quick. So those are the three categories. I'd say if I were to have to give a percentage to each one, I'd say the event organizers get 50% of the blame, in my opinion. I'd say Travis Scott, no. Event organizers get 40%. Travis Scott gets 20% of the blame, and then the crowd gets 40% of the blame. I think the crowd deserves way more blame than they're getting, and I think the crowd is controlling the media that's coming out of Astroworld, right? The people that are talking about the Astroworld disaster, not due to anybody's fault, because of the fact that there was 70,000 of them, are crowd members, are festival attendees. It's not the event organizers. The event organizers have said shit. Travis Scott has not really made a public statement besides, his press release. The crowd deserves a huge, huge majority. So I'll repeat that again. Event organizers, 40% of the blame. Travis Scott, 20% of the blame. And the crowd, 40% of the blame. That's my final result. I may have messed up like percentages, 10% this way, 10% that way, but whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is, crowd deserves most of it. The crowd and the event organizers deserve most of the blame. Travis Scott deserves a little bit. That's my opinion. You can come at me however you want. Okay, let's get into this. I know we're at 46, so I'm going to try to really go quick on these last three. So I asked a question on Instagram the other day, and it did a lot better than I thought I did. I thought it would do in terms of engagement, in terms of people causing conversation, in terms of people really conversing with it. I thought a lot of people were just going to kind of throw this one away and be like, kids, whatever. I basically asked the question, like, do you want to have kids? Just very simple, kept it simple, see what people said. A lot of people were responding. A lot of people were like, yes. A lot of people were like, no. But this question, the results I got were, majority of people were like, yes, I want to be a parent. And like, it kind of ended up that way. It was like a 53-47 vote in favor of wanting to be a parent. But there were a lot of vocal minority who were like, no kids, never, never, never. Like, I am anti-child. Like, not like that. But basically, the whole thing, like what it led me to think was, and people started commenting like why they didn't want it. So I appreciate that. And a lot of people were saying, I don't want to bring kids into the dystopian world. I don't want to do this. The world sucks. It's so negative. It's horrible. It's awful. Like, I was just like, wow. Like, I don't really think that, but okay. Like, okay. Like, is the world bad? Is the world that bad? Are people really like anti-world right now? Is that where we're at in society? Are we like really anti-world? Because a lot of people were commenting on that question when I was like, do you want to have kids? A lot of people were like, no, because the world is a horrible place, because social media is this disgusting, disgusting thing, and I don't want my kids to grow up in it. It's just like, okay, like I respect it. I respect where you're coming from, but also like I'm not with it. Like I'm not pro that, dude. I genuinely like I'm such of the belief. I'm maybe consider me being an optimist. I really am very like I'm so happy with the way a lot of things are in the world. Like I'm so happy with the way certain things are in the world. I love the fact that technology exists in the world. A lot of people are like, fuck social media. Let's go back to the 80s where everything was just radical and everyone was on LSD. No, I love the era we're in. You know why? Because this podcast would not be a thing without this era. The fact is we have information at our literal fingertips. I can search up anything I ever want on the internet and it comes up in a matter of milliseconds. I get 15 million results. Right? This is the age of information. This is the age of technology. Like, it's so cool. I just find it fascinating. And I would love to, and like I guess my response, like people don't want kids because the society sucks. My response is if I want kids eventually at some point further down the line, not now, not in the next 5 years, hopefully. Some point down the line, I would like kids. I think this is such a cool world to be a part of, right? I think to make your mark on this world is It's easier than ever before almost because of the fact that we have so much technology and we have access to so much information right at our fingertips. And that just makes me so happy. Like, genuinely, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, I'm really, really just fascinated with the way the world is like so it's so right there. There's so much to do. Like, we could do so many things in this world, and that is so exciting. And people don't want kids because they think it's some dystopian society we're headed towards. Like, I don't know. I didn't understand that. I was like, I have such a weird view on the world, and maybe it's strange. Maybe a lot of people echo those other individual sentiments of like, dude, yeah, you're fucking weird. They're right. Like, the world is super dystopian. Why do you not agree with them? You know, it's like a dark place to be alive. Social media will eat these children alive, particularly if this Facebook metaverse thing becomes a huge thing. You know, I don't know. I look at social media and I just see so much opportunity. Like, I feel like if you use it right, if you're a part of social media and you use it correctly and you're able to leverage it into the resource that you want it to be into, like be used as, it can be the most powerful freaking tool. It can change your life. You see this with people all the time. Like Charlie D'Amelio's life. She was a 16-year-old girl going to school in suburban Connecticut, unknown to the world. She was one of 350 million Americans in the United States. And then, boom, TikTok dance goes viral. Suddenly, she's the most popular 17, 18-year-old girl in the world. Why? Because of TikTok. Social media is changing the way that we think. Social media is giving so much so much opportunity. Yes, is there horrible things that happen on social media? Absolutely. Does it cause body image insecurities? Totally. Is it very toxic at points? Absolutely. Are there like things? Yes. But you also, here's the challenge of social media is you have to figure out like what are the useful parts of it for you and what is good for you and then what's bad. And you have to learn to just be able to categorize everything. And it takes a lot of skill. I'm not even there yet. I do go down TikTok rabbit holes where I'm like, why am I doing this? This was a waste of 55 minutes. But still, social media intrigues me. And the more and more I delve into this like creator world, I like realize that like people are like one of the main things that people are talking about is like why they don't want to have kids is like social media is just going to affect their lives. And I'm like, no, wait, hold on. Social media is going to give them more opportunity than you and I ever had because it's going to be more evolved than ever. This is a world that's like has so much opportunity written all over it. You just have to go take it. And social media is the medium that allows you to just grab things that are in front of you. And that to me is just exciting. And I get very excited thinking about it. And I'm like, why would I not want to provide that opportunity to the next generation? Like that's my response to that whole thing that social media is dystopian, and I get like there were other people who were like, yo, I don't want to have kids because they take too much time and I am just not about that life. And I'm like, you know what? I fucking respect that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Like like there's nothing I have to say to that because that's a point. People don't want to put in that time, and I get that too. And I'm sitting here at 21, and I don't know if I want to put in that time. Who knows? Maybe I'll be sitting here at 40 and saying the same thing, right? Living in my parents' house, basically being a loser. I don't know, but only time will tell. I guess my answer to like, oh, Anuj, do you want kids? Is like, yeah, at some point, but also like, I don't know. My mind is constantly changing every day. And I think that's the beauty of it. The beauty of the world is that everybody's perspective is constantly changing when new information comes about, when you live life, when you live experiences. And so that's a whole thing. And I'm excited to get into all that later. But obviously, kids are the farthest thing from my mind now. Anyway, I want to get into one last topic and we'll wrap this up. We went hella overtime. Kaepernick took up a lot of our time today, but it's okay. what is the line? What is the line? See, this is another thing I've been thinking about recently. Okay. Um, everybody's got a line. And this like stemmed from a conversation I was having with some coworkers at work. So shout out to you guys. Everybody's got a line. Okay. But like what is the societal line and what is everybody's individual line? And I'm talking about a line in terms of humor, right? So I can crack certain jokes with certain audiences of people and be okay with that because I know that they can handle that. But there are certain topics, there are certain things where I would never cross a line with individuals because I believe that that would hurt their feelings and it would turn offensive and it would turn bad. And so that led me to believe, I was like, hold on, where's the line? So the line is this like, and like, what is the line? In terms of like, what is the line? What the fuck is this line we talk about when we say, oh, you crossed a line? What is the line? Like, what is the physical line? It's not a physical line, but the line is really just a social construct. The line is wherever you want to put that. Like, it's like a collection of societal beliefs and like all of these political correctness values and concepts and all of these things based in this, generalized version of like what you think society thinks and putting it all together. That is what the line is. And the line shifts with the times, with specific events, with cancel culture, with all of these things. That line is changing, right? You could argue right now that the line is very easy to cross. I cross the line on a daily basis, right? You cross the line sometimes. I don't know. I personally tend to believe that the line is very easy to cross in today's society compared to 30 years ago, where that line may have been a little tougher. Okay. But also, I was thinking about this on a more micro level, where it was like, what is the line for me and specific groups of friends of mine, right? I have friends that I have known since kindergarten, first grade, literally since our parents used to pick us up and, take us on play dates, right? Or we used to go to each other's houses for play dates, in kindergarten and first grade, right? I know those people and the humor I can crack with them, that line is very far. I can go pretty freaking far with them and we can have a great time. I know with certain family members of mine, the line is really far. And I can go far with my humor, right? It's funny. It's entertaining for those groups. But I also have certain friends that I met in college or in high school, and their line is much closer. It's like, yo, you say a certain thing about a certain topic and they're not going to like it. And that's totally fair too. When you're meeting someone new for the first time, you're not just going to go and rip off a 9/11 joke, right? Or rip off a joke about um what's another sensitive topic? And rip off an abortion joke, right? That's not like you're not just going to lead with that. It's about knowing your audience. So it's like that whole idea of being aware of your audience. I feel like the theme of today's episode has just been awareness, right? Like, what are we aware of what's going on, right? So, what is that line? The line is a curious phenomenon, and I've been thinking about this. It's just like, how does that line shift depending on the audience you're a part of, depending on the national stage, depending on culture? It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And I was thinking about myself. It's like, what do other people perceive my version of the line is? Like, what can they communicate with me? What is the line? What is their line with me? Like, are they like, oh, Anuj is great with this issue, but when it comes to that, oh, push back, no, 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 because he might get angry, right? What is my line? What do other people perceive our lines to be? It's this whole, and I'm talking like particularly with humor, but also particularly with topics that you can bring up with those people, right? In conversation, it could be a very serious conversation, and you bring up a topic, and people kind of back off a little bit. That's the line repelling them. See, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I wish I had more time to talk about this, but it's just a thought I've been having is like, what is the line? And how do you know when you've crossed it? And like, is there a different line for everybody? And do other people think your line is in a certain place? But when you know your line is in another place, right? Just very interesting. It's very heady if you think about it, like at in the full value of what it is. But it's 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 very interesting, and I had a lot of fun thinking about it. But anyway, that's all I got today. I really want to talk actually more about the line. Maybe we'll do another topic somewhere down the line. Get it somewhere down the line of another episode or something. But if you guys enjoyed the episode, feel free to like it. If you're on YouTube, or dislike it. If you didn't like it, I will know to change what I'm doing. If you're on Spotify, follow me. Click that follow button. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you want more information, more kind of content. I post pretty much every week. Post highlights of these shows, post the shows, post more shows, content, everything. Trying to get on that content grind. Get on this. Social medias are going to be linked down below. You can go follow me on Twitter. You can go follow me on Instagram. Go follow me on Instagram if you want to be the most active and most up to date. I have everything up there. Follow me on TikTok as well. I post a lot of clips every day. I tend to post 1 to 3 clips a day about various things I'm thinking about, or different, takes and all that stuff. So definitely go look at those. And follow me there. Just trying to come up right now. Nothing too crazy, no crazy, situations yet with fame. So, but do follow me if you like the content. Do like the podcast, or sorry, do like this video. Do subscribe to this video. Follow me on social media. You know the deal. You know the vibes. So long from my parents' house. Appreciate you all listening to the podcast. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you next time on another episode of the Changavi Show. All right, y'all. I'll see you later. Peace.